Welcome to the Lands of Dimidium, a fantastical world of great forests, giant crystals erupting from the ground, deserts surrounding jungles, and a history of destruction by immense creatures and a long-seated rivalry between gods. Our story, however, starts out much smaller, with that of a tiny gnome fighter named Agnomeio Banderas and a wood elf paladin by the name of Daphne Sageblossom, both of which were on their way to Alewith Harbor on the southern coast of Lithuania. Agnomeio thwarted a mugging at the Golden Forest stables by a member of the Thieves Guild.
No, that will not be enough, sir. You're only embarrassing yourself.
And Daffy rescued a young child named Amy from some twig blights that were driven mad by something evil in the forest.
Like a thorn ripping through cloth, the little creature tears angrily at the bottom of her dress, and she tries to run away, screaming. What would you like to do?
I would like to come running into that situation and be like, hell no.
Meanwhile, already in Alewith Harbor was an Eladrin rogue named Alessio Morte, who in an attempt to join the local Thieves Guild, the Shadow of Burkath, he successfully planted a speaking stone within the town's alchemy shop, Peerless Potables.
Right before as he leaves, and before I go meet him, I would like to plant the stone in that bush right there in the front of the store.
Okay.
Right there in the dirt. You see that potted plant right there?
I do.
That's where I want to plant the stone, right in the bottom, right in the planter.
Something about the timing of his back being to you while he was walking out the door and your nimble fingers, you managed to throw the rock into there, but it does make a noise as it goes in. Just next door, at the Red Sun Inn, the half-elf warlock Knobolas awoke to a closet causing trouble in his room. This attracted undue attention by the owner of the inn, Clarence Rowley. When it sees you notice it, it wedges itself between the dresser and the wall and pushes hard. The dresser falls over with a loud bang. As Clarence was about to open the door, he was attacked by a dretch, a dog-like demon. You hear the doorknob starting to wiggle.
It's a really big mess. You really don't want to come in here.
You hear heavy breathing, impatient snorting, and the sound of footsteps pacing in front of your room. Then you hear a heavy scratching at your door. And you hear a man let out a terrifying scream and then a gurgle. Knobolas grabbed the closet and threw it into the hall, distracting the dretch as he ran from his room and out the front door. So you threw him pretty darn hard. So he hits the other wall, and he gets the attention of the beast, who then walks over to investigate what was just going on. This is where all our heroes met for the first time and did battle with several dretches, saving a guard in the process. After the fight, our group went to the Drunken Seal Tavern to get some food, drink, and talk to the guards. While talking, one of the guards left for the bathroom and motioned for Alessio to follow him. I love that you're staying in the doorway.
Yes, I'm not getting too close.
That's all right. So, it turns out this guard was a member of the Shadow of Burkath and gave Alessio his second mission, to break into the Tempest Traders and find the hidden door within. When Alessio returned, the group, in need of some gold and something to do, took a look at the job board and saw a quest to rescue a small boy named Tinbrand who had gotten lost in the Copper Groves. They also noted a job to slay a local monstrosity, an owlbear who had been killing in the same woods. The group spent the night getting to know each other and then went to sleep. Our group, now bound by a common goal, acquired some horses and a carriage from the Golden Forest stables and headed into the woods.
Actually, on their way out of the city, we need to stop by the Golden Forest stables and steal us a coach.
Steal his coach?
Yep. That's
All
what
right.
we're doing. Well, that's what I'm doing.
I'm on board.
This is where they met Jeff, a monster hunter who had the unfortunate luck of setting off his own trap and was now hanging upside down among a bunch of fish hanging from trees.
What's your name, mister?
My name's Jeff. Jeff with a G-E, with a G-E-O-F-F. Jeff.
Oh, the
My
worst
name's
kind.
Jeff.
Oh, he's one of those fancy ones.
I was just gonna say, did you step in your own trap, dude?
I sure did. I accidentally stepped in one of my stairs.
Oh man.
Aw, gee
And-
off.
That was about a half hour ago, and then you came along. Thank you.
This is where the group first saw the giant owl who had been harrying the hunter.
The only thing that I've been seeing is this giant owl that has really been messing with my traps. And it's daytime, so it's weird that there's an owl, but it's giant, so I don't know. Maybe it needs to eat. But he says that It's basically been plucking the fish almost as soon as he can string them up, and he points up and he points to this branch, and he goes, "It's right up there." And you guys kind of look over and you notice there's this branch and this gigantic owl. The branch itself is actually kind of sagging underneath its weight, and it's just sitting there staring at you with these massive wings and pointed ears, kind of just twitching left and right, and the eyes are staring at you, staring at the fish, back and forth, back and forth.
Agnomeio freed Jeff, and the group traveled on and arrived at a cave entrance guarded by all varieties of evil plant beings called Bytes. This is where Alessio almost met his end at the hands of a fire ivy blight, but he was rescued by a lucky blast of eldritch power from Knobolas. Now within the cave, the group took a slight detour to investigate a large snake statue sitting in a pool of water. Looking around to find some significance in the room, Daffy got a front row seat to something sinister, a vision of the destruction of both earth and sea. She came to on the floor of the room and informed the party of her vision.
The word soon being muttered and something to do with somebody named Halix. Does that mean anything to any of you?
The group quickly investigated the other statues, and Knobolas pressed a button beneath one of the serpent's jaws, which caused the room to begin filling with water, threatening to drown our heroes.
Can I push the button now?
If you'd like to.
What do you have to? You have to roll.
Try not to get darted in the neck, please.
No, just if you want to push the button, push the button.
They were saved by Agnomeio's quick thinking as he found a button behind the eye of the giant snake.
You feel a little button.
Oh, I hit that shit. I hit that shit immediately.
The room opened back up and the water drained out. The group was safe, for now. They moved deeper into the cave and discovered the owlbear they had been hunting. A fight ensued, and although it got a little hairy, or feathery, the group was triumphant. During the fight, Alessio was tossed into the water, where he noticed an underwater passage.
So you land in the water, and you notice it's a lot deeper than you'd expect. You note a particularly dark area in front of you, as if there's an underwater passage.
Knobolas and Agnomeio dove under the water to see what lay beyond, and they arose into a room filled with subtle purple glowing light. Knobolas stepped a little too close to a large glowing fungus, and tendrils erupted out of the ground and began attacking.
Beneath you, cracks a little bit.
Oh no.
Oh no, what have I done?
And slimy purple tendrils erupt out of the cracks, and they lash out at you.
No.
So I'd like
To be fair, Agnomeio, you didn't warn me. You just said, "Oh, purple. I should avoid those." You should have been like, "Oh, those could kill me."
I'm
Thanks.
sorry.
Actually-
I didn't know. I just knew they were fungus. I didn't know they were tentacle monstrosities. I'm sorry.
Quickly, Knobolas slashed at it with his dagger, and he and Agnomeio retreated back into the water. Meanwhile, Daffy and Alessio found a hidden path behind some vines and moved into a dark room with a giant web-covered hole in the floor. Some careless footing caused the web to shake, and dozens of little baby spiders the size of a hand to come after them. When the battle was over, the party was reunited, and after investigating, spotted a backpack at the bottom of the pit.
Tie the rope around my waist, and let's lower a gnome into the hole.
Ever daring, Agnomeio tied a rope to his waist and was lowered down, only to find a giant spider at the bottom of the pit. The rest of the party pulled him up as Agnomeio swung his sword and kicked his little legs. The spider was quickly dispatched and the spoils were collected, a pair of boots of elven kind and a healing potion. Darkness pierced only by torchlight, the group moved silently over a natural bridge. They were relieved when they avoided the multitude of bats hanging overhead, only to ignore the imminent threat that was the squishy moss beneath their feet. Two creatures rose from the moss and formed into a pair of canine-looking bundles of peat and moss.
So as you guys walk through the moss, so you do not alert the bats. However, there is something funky about this moss here.
Oh,
And
God.
Up from the moss, you see these two canine-like bodies start to rise.
Oh,
And
Oh, Jesus Lord.
A battle ensued with vines restricting, rapiers piercing, nipples blasting, and two of our heroes falling unconscious. The party was in danger, and had it not been for the grit and skill of Alessio and his rapier, the party would have fallen.
Help
I'm
us,
very-
Alessio Morte. You're our only hope.
I'm about to be Morte.
The group had no choice but to rest inside the cave. Although not the most restful of nights, the cold and damp seeped into their bones. They were able to bandage themselves, catch some sleep, and move along to the end of the cave. Or so they thought. A series of vines hanging from the ceiling caught the eye of Agnomeio. Detecting some sort of hidden secret, he began pulling the vines, first one, then all of them at once, only to discover a Venus flytrap-like creature living in the ceiling and more than happy to dine on Gnome. Agnomeio tore the vine from his wrist and noticed a door had slightly opened in the wall in front of them. Inside the hidden room, the group was faced with a subterranean tree housing a giant owl. This owl flew down and reverted back into its natural shape, that of a furbolg. The furbolg seemed to turn the very ground against our heroes by summoning a giant moss blight, then promptly escaping through the tree. After defeating the monster, they recovered the body of a young, dead rock gnome. The roiling mass of plant matter, moss, and leaves loses all signs of sentience and spreads out across the ground. Steam begins to rise from the moss as it visibly turns from a vibrant green to a dull gray. The body of a small gnomish boy rolls out of the mass.
Oh god, the body.
The body.
We rush over. I'm rushing over. I don't know about you guys,
sorry.
but I rush over and check on him.
Realizing the dead boy to be Tinbrand, they brought him to Gonathan Marathar, Alowith's resident cleric and disciple of Uros, the god of storms. Gonathan performed a ritual to revive Tinbrand that involved the group defeating some lightning mephits and protecting Gonathan. Agnomeio had a heart-to-heart with Tinbrand about the need to protect the innocents of the world, and gave to Tinbrand his whip. The group spent the rest of their day cleaning up some loose ends. They returned some owlbear feathers to the Fang and Feather, an adventurers guild that has a place in every major location across Dimidium. They helped an old woman retrieve a family heirloom and broke into the now closed Red Sun Inn, where they found that the body of Clarence Rowley was still there, and there was a note reading, "Find Knobolas and shower in riches," signed by someone named Sulgradan. Once again, feeling they needed the help of a cleric, our heroes asked Gonathan to join them in the Red Sun Inn. Upon entering, they found the inn infested with demons. A battle ensued. Bloated sacks of maggots and fetid gore were spilled upon the ground. Small red chain-wielding demons slung awful puns with reckless abandon. And a 7-foot-tall, disfigured creature with a mouth for a hand emerged from the glowing sigil on the ground. The fight ended, and Gonathan proceeded upstairs and said a prayer over the body and carried him back to the Temple of Uros. Now back at the Drunken Seal Tavern, Daffy was greeted by Evandel Oakenrock, an overtly boisterous paladin from her order, the Verdant Knights of the Ancients. He gave a toast to Daffy and her accomplishments defeating the owlbear, and gave her a tear of Turasil, a magical item that represents a significant task performed by a paladin. The group spent time speaking with the residents of Alowith Harbor, and eventually went to bed. Knobolas had a pretty disturbing dream where he was being tortured by demons, and when he awoke, he had a flesh-covered book in his hands known as the Book of Shadows. While the group slept, Alessio made his way to the Tempest Traders, where he broke in, had a quick altercation with a pot-bellied pig named Snortimer, and ultimately found the hidden doorway leading to the Shadow of Brakoth's hideout. He was judged for his performance and given his last task, to steal the collar from Snortimer during his birthday party the following day. Early the next morning, Agnomeio awoke to the sound of a cracking whip outside of the Temple of Uros and discovered Tinbrand practicing with the whip. Agnomeio spoke to Tinbrand and imparted some wisdom on the young boy and showed him how to better use the weapon. Snortimer's birthday, an event hosted by Adrian from the Tempest Traders, which had become a tradition within Alowith Harbor, was upon them, and the group joined in the festivities. There were magic candies that made whoever ate them grow pig parts, some fun games to play and prizes to be won, and a greased pig to catch.
Not so fast, you wee little piggy.
Oh, that was actually good. I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this again.
17.
Ooh.
All right. So that
18.
18. Perfect. That's his AC. So you capture. So you tackle him as a pig. You're kind of like laying on top of him. All right. So go ahead and make a strength check, and I'll do a dex saving throw.
Be careful, he's a slippery bitch.
Alessio was able to steal the collar off Snortimer's neck and return it to Naxori, the leader of this chapter of the Shadow of Brakoth. On the last day in Alowith Harbor, the group awakens to the sound of a wagon being pulled through the streets and people booing and yelling at the occupant. It turns out that this wagon pulls Virus Nighthold, a snow elf from the Bloomsea icefields far to the north of Lithuan. He is wanted for an assassination attempt on a member of the Zephyr Council and set to board the Mighty Maiden, making its journey across the ocean to the western coast of Akari and a prison camp called Knife's Edge. While following the carriage to the prison ship, our heroes met Captain Squall Montague and his first mate Charles Durham, and had just received their jobs aboard the ship when a group of snow elves apparently set on rescuing Virus attacked. The elves killed 2 guards and would have rescued Virus if not for the help of our intrepid adventurers and their unwillingness to listen to their new captain, who told them not to fight and to just get on the boat. What lies in store for our heroes as they cross the ocean? That has yet to be seen, but this has been a recap of episodes 1 through 14 of Dungeons and Drams, the Lands of Dimidium. You can catch us live streaming weekly on YouTube and Twitch, or listen to our podcast. Just search Dungeons and Drams on your favorite podcast provider. Cheers.